how can we share our technical updates in a way they are not going to be buried in some Slack messages and they're not going to be completely ignored by our team? This is a great question, and it sort of emphasizes the importance of how we speak and how we deliver our technical results and our technical work. Because of course, as STEM professionals, whether you are an engineer, data scientist, developer, we tend to share our work, right, in our team, but not really emphasize what is the consequence and what is the impact of that specific work. So what I saw from the work of my clients when I asked them about this specific issue and like, how do you share your information with the team, with your boss and so on, they say things like that. Oh, I finished the algorithm that develops, I don't know, this and that. And of course, when you read this sentence, what do you think? Like the first thing that you would think is like, okay, what algorithm? What is this person talking about? Why do we even care about developing this thing? Like, what is the point of all of that? And it does not sort of leave that impact that makes the other person who is receiving the message go, oh wow, great, we have that piece of the puzzle done already. So what people do when they do not sort of get recognition for that technical work, what they tend to do is they tend to work harder and start doing more of the technical stuff, which is of course great if this is what you like to do. But on the other hand, if we want to really sort of get the fruits from our own work and get recognized at our work, especially if we are working in interdisciplinary environment, and as many of us do today, because of course science works like that, technology works like that, so chances are that you are working with people from different backgrounds and so on. It's very difficult to sort of find your voice and not be the invisible person, right, from the background who does this nerdy stuff, coding or developing some algorithms and so on, that sounds so abstract and so weird for people who are not from our world. So why working harder isn't the solution? Simply because if you work harder, they're not going to understand you better. Like the point, this reminds me of some situations when you are, for example, confused by some piece of information at school, and then the teacher repeats the same exact thing but louder, like as if I were to understand it better if you repeat it louder. That's more of what we are doing when we are working harder and harder and harder without actually being recognized for the work that we did. So how do we get recognized? How do we get to that point of saying, okay, wow, this person did that work, congratulations, here is more money, here's the promotion, here's the recognition, here's the funding for your project and so on. So how do we become that person? The thing we need to take into account is how we share our work, how we share information. So as I mentioned a few videos, I think already on the channel, we tend, as STEM professionals, we are trained to sort of think of information in terms of cause and consequence, right? So we think, okay, A causes B, therefore C. And when people listen to our work, especially if you add in some jargon and some technical stuff that they do not understand and they do not actually need to understand it because it's not their thing, it's not what they're trained for, they get super confused. Like, why would I even care about the methodology? Like, give me the good stuff. Where's the good stuff? And the good stuff is actually the impact. So what can you do practically? Instead of sharing your work in terms of, oh, this algorithm is done and it compiles in, I don't know how many seconds or how many minutes, what you can say, look, we made this work in less time. We reduced the time, I don't know, the user experience of the loading of the page time by 30%. This is something much more tangible and gives people sort of this substance they need to feel in order to make your work less abstract. And let's face it, the STEM work, whether you're a scientist, developer, whatever it is that you do, engineer, it's very, very abstract for people, okay? Unless it's there, solid and visible, they are not actually going to understand what's happening. This reminds me of when I was trying to explain my PhD to my grandma. Like, she was like, okay, but what can you actually do with that? That's the same thing, right? We need to cross that bridge for them. We need to be there for them and support them in the way they can actually see the impact of our work and what is it that we are actually doing. Because otherwise we are not going to get recognized, we're not going to get promoted, not because we're not doing our job well, but simply because those people are not going to see the value in it. And that's the whole point. We want them to see the value. We want them to see how essential your contribution was in that project. So in order to do that, as I said before, you need to develop this skill. You need to develop the skill of starting to think like a person, like another person, like starting to think, what is the person who is reading those messages, listening to me, reading those emails? How is that person thinking? What does that person need in order to see, to make my work more tangible to them? And that's, of course, a skill that has to be learned and practiced. But once you do, and once you have that, it sort of becomes clear, it's instant, right? The instant change in your career, the instant change in recognition, because you're not going to be the expert in the background anymore. You're going to be really the go-to person for that solution and the one who's going to be recognized for that, which is exactly what we want, right? Not because we are some, we want our recognition. No, but this is something that you deserve because you did brilliant work. And a part of why I do what I do is exactly that, helping STEM professionals, engineers, data scientists, developers who are brilliant at their job, but they are just being overlooked, not considered for promotions, not funded, just because they miss that skill that no one actually taught them during their education. Like, how do I make my work visible to people who are not experts in my field? As I said, this is exactly what I do in my coaching program. So if you feel that you need this push, you need this accountability, you feel that your STEM career sort of reached a bottleneck and you want to shake it up a little, I want to invite you to join my coaching program, and I will leave a link down below in the description where you can schedule a completely free discovery call with me where we can discuss those exact themes, like those challenges, those struggles, what is happening to you in your career, whether it's your work being ignored, not recognized, not funded, or you finishing your project presentation at 2 a.m. because you don't know how to frame it, how to state it in a way that makes sense. All of those issues, I would be more than happy to discuss them and to talk about them, and of course, see if we are a good fit to work together. So I hope that you found this video useful, and talk to you soon in another video. Bye bye.